স্ট্রিমিংটা অন করে দাও, আদারওয়াইজ এটা টেলিকাস্ট হতে টাইম লাগে, তো স্ট্রিমিংটা অন করে দাও এবার।
করছি আমি, 1 মিনিট ম্যাম, করছি।
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, আমরা লাইভ আছি।
দুটো বাজে স্যার। স্যার আমরা কি স্টার্ট করব? ত্রিপাঠী স্যার, আমরা কি স্টার্ট করব?
হ্যাঁ, ইউ ক্যান স্টার্ট।
ওকে
ইউ ক্যান স্টার্ট। ইউ ক্যান স্টার্ট।
ওকে স্যার। ওকে। Hello, respected teachers, our officer in charge, Dr. Pijuskanth Tripathi, IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka, my colleagues, all other dignitaries and participants. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Department of Anthropology, Haldia Government College, I, Dr. Bhuvan Mohan Das, welcome you all to the second lecture in the series organized for the students of anthropology. You may be aware that Department of Anthropology in Haldia Government College is one of the oldest department under Vidyasagar University since 1988. The department always tried to provide a good faculty strength as well as infrastructural support to our students. But I personally feel that quality lectures from the renowned speaker may have an impact on the young minds, which motivates them in learning and going ahead in their future pathways. Thus, the aim of this lecture series is to provide a platform to the undergraduate and postgraduate students of the discipline so that they may get an essence of good quality learning through virtual dais during this new normal pandemic situation. We, the faculty members of this organizing committee, are feeling really happy to be the host of this lecture series because today we have with us this virtual platform eminent speaker, Dr. Subho Roy. Dr. Roy, Professor of Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, sir is one of the leading biocultural anthropologists not only in India but also in the world. Today, sir will deliver a lecture on the fundamental topic, that is human evolution. We always face questions like from where we came, how we evolved from the students of the discipline as well as from general people. Today, sir will address all these queries. Now, I also want to share with you the fact that today we are hosting around 400 participants, not only from West Bengal, but also from different states of India. More than 80% of our participants are students from different colleges or universities of West Bengal, and about 10% of the total participants are from the state and central universities like Allahabad University, Guru Ghasidas University, Delhi University, Central University of Odisha, Northeast University, and so on. I feel this huge response definitely motivates us to host more invited lectures in near future with different interesting topics in anthropology. In fact, we are almost ready to host 3 more lectures in the month of October this year from 3 eminent speakers with specialization in biological, social, cultural, and archaeological anthropology. Well, I know that you are, the listeners, are waiting rejoicingly to hear our today's invited speaker, Professor Subho Roy. But before moving to the academic session, I would like to invite the officer in charge of our college, Dr. Pijuskanth Tripathi, to address the lecture series. Sir, please take over this dais.
Okay, thank you, Funuvu. This is a very good afternoon, and I feel even pleasure and the opportunity to welcome the participants as well as the dignitaries to this lecture series webinar. The first on the onset of my lecture, I like to congratulate the Department of Anthropology on behalf of the college as well as on behalf of me, that Department of Anthropology has taken a good initiative that a number of lecture series. They have planned to organize a number of lecture series for the benefit of the students as well as the benefit of the members of the academic community. This is the second lecture of the lecture series webinar, and I feel proud, and I have the opportunity to heartily welcome Professor Dr. Subho Roy, the Professor of Anthropology Department, Calcutta University. Sir, I tender my respect as well as the pronoun. And despite of his busy schedule, he has kindly given his consent, and he will be sharing his views. Sir, like an eminent personality like you, we have the we are really feel glad to have you with us. Sir, I also extend my heartfelt congratulations to the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka, and I also extend my thanks and congratulations to all other faculty members of the anthropology department. I heartily welcome all the participants who will be enjoying this lecture, and I also heartily welcome all the dignitaries who will who had already taken part or will be taking part, will be joining very soon, most probably. So I heartily welcome all of you. I also extend my thanks and congratulations to all of you. The topic is very interesting. Actually, this topic is not for the people of the anthropology. It is for all, and I think this is a very actually, if I say that the dawn of humanity remains a very fascinating mystery, because if I say that last few decades, from we have been having a lot of debate over the existence of the human being, because different fossils are being excavated, and after having these fossils, human fossils, scientists are in debate that when actually the human being came up. So that evolution of the human being and how they actually evolved in the present shape, that is really very interesting and mysterious to us. So from today's lecture, I hope we will be knowing the real fact of this of the evolution of the human being, and we all, the academicians, we will be really benefited from this lecture. Sir, though I am not the discipline of this anthropology, but I have basic interest in some areas of the anthropology, and from this interesting part in this pandemic situation, it is we are very fortunate that such type of webinar lecture series has been arranged by the department. One thing I like to mention here that it is not possible in the current situation, because much more interaction is needed, because a lot of questions arise in our mind regarding about the human evolution. Actually, where from actually do we come? Where from did we come, and how we have been evolved? But it the direct interaction, I think that could be possible. That could not be possible. That cannot be possible in this pandemic situation. And this in this virtual platform, however, we expect that participants will ask their questions and their queries and send their queries. That organizations will direct how they will put forward their queries. By having these queries, we all will be knowing, or will be getting clear our views. So, sir, lastly, I like to mention here that this webinar will help us to know our to extend our knowledge, to enhance our knowledge regarding this particular human evaluation. And all the participants, they will have the chance, or this platform will get them chance to interact themselves with these resource persons. Sir, lastly, I again tender my respect and congratulations, and I also extend my heartfelt thanks and congratulations to all the participants, as well as to the organizers and other associated members who are actually indirectly or indirectly involved with this seminar. So with these few words, I like to conclude, hand over to the convener of this seminar.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your constant support and encouragement. Now, I would like to invite our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka, to say a few words about today's lecture. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of IQAC Haldia Government College, I heartily welcome today's eminent speaker, Professor Subho Roy, Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta. Actually, I really feel proud to welcome such one of the leading professor of anthropology in India. Also, today's topic, human evolution, from where we came and how we evolve, is beyond any subject boundary. Every human being wants to know about this, and we are lucky that today we have got the chance to understand the topic from such an eminent anthropologist. I thank all the faculty members of Anthropology Department of Haldia Government College for organizing this webinar with such an interesting topic, especially Dr. Bhuvan Mohan Das, HOD, Department of Anthropology, for his enthusiasm for organizing any event for students and college. I also like to thank our officer in charge, Dr. Piyush Kanti Tripathi, for his continuous support and inspiration. Finally, I also welcome all the participants for this webinar and wishing a grand success of this today's webinar on lecture series. Thank you all, and over to Dr. Bhuvan Mohan Das.
Thank you, Dr. Sadhuka, for your encouragement and support. Now, according to the time schedule of today's program, it is my duty to welcome Professor Subho Roy, our teacher at University of Calcutta, and hand over this virtual dais for his deliberation on human evolution. Professor Subho Roy do not require any introduction for the anthropology fraternity. However, before handing over the mic, I am fortunate enough to give a brief introduction to our participants, especially for the new students and the participants from other disciplines. Professor Roy, at present, working as professor in the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, where he joined as assistant professor in 2004. Although he had started his full-time teaching career at University of Allahabad in the year 2000. Dr. Roy, as a student, was brilliant and received his master's and doctoral degree from the University of Calcutta. He completed his PhD work from Anthropology and Human Genetics Unit, now Biological Anthropology, Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, with UGC Junior Research Fellowship Award. During his more than 20 years of research and teaching career, Sir published 2 edited books or journal, 4 book reviews, more than 80 research articles in various journals of international and national repute. Most of them published in journals with impact factor. Sir already completed 3 UGC major research projects. Professor Roy's first research interests are reproductive and sexual health, special focus to the adolescents, anthropological demography, biocultural perspective of breastfeeding, body cognition, food habit, nutrition, and ecology and health, and many others. Under his research guidance, 3 scholars awarded PhD and currently 9 more registered research scholars are on the queue for the completion of their doctoral dissertation. Currently, Sir is acting as Managing Editor, Journal of Indian Anthropological Society, and also the member of several editorial boards of various national and international journals, namely Women's Midlife Health, Man in India, Anthropology, Open Journal, Oriental Anthropologist, and so on. Sir received Teaching and Research Career Achievement Award in the year 2018 from Department of Anthropology, Delhi University. Now, I would like to share with few notable activities Professor Roy, which includes he is acting as government-nominated member of the Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya Samiti since May 2015 under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. He is also the member secretary, Indian National Confederation and Academy of Anthropologists since April 2020. He is also chairman, Institutional Ethical Committee of Anthropological Survey of India under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. He is also invited as subject expert, Net Bureau UGC, New Delhi, for syllabus revision in anthropology. He is also a member of Academic Council for the National Resource Center in Anthropology, several universities under the MHRD Government of India. He is elected as sectional president of the Anthropology and Other Behavioral Science in the 104th session of the Indian Science Congress Association, and also elected as sectional recorder for the same section in 96th and 97th session of the Indian Science Congress Association. Sir served as chairman undergraduate board of studies in anthropology, University of Calcutta, and also the member of different postgraduate board of studies in anthropology for different universities like Sambalpur University, Assam University, Allahabad, Sikkim, Pandit Ravi Shukla University, and so on. Dr. Roy acted as visiting fellow in the Department of Anthropology under several UGC programs, and Sir delivered more than 100 invited lectures in different academic institutions all over India. So I don't want to make your waiting time prolong. Now I would like to invite Professor Roy to take this virtual dash. Sir, please. Sir,
Well,
please take your.
thank you. Thank you, Bhuvan. Honorable Officer in Charge, Haldia Government College, Dr. Piyush Tripathi, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka, Honorable Coordinator, IQAC, Haldia Government College, my esteemed colleagues of this college, distinguished participants of this webinar, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, my sincere gratitude to all of you, especially to Dr. Bhuvan Mohandas and the faculty members of that department for giving me this opportunity to deliver a lecture which is specially meant for the students of anthropology as well as from other disciplines. And the title of the paper, of the lecture it will be a popular lecture, Human Evolution from Where We Came and from Where We Evolved. In fact, I'm reminded of it that in many occasions, as Bhuvan rightly told us, that in many occasions students ask during their initial days of anthropology some questions, some interesting questions about human evolution. I'm reminded of one such question. One of the students asked me, "Sir, is it the fact that a group of monkeys came down from the trees and started living on the land and they gradually became transformed into modern human beings?" So these are the questions that appear in the mind of the students, really how we evolved and how we were, from where we came and how we evolved. So let me start with this presentation. Is my presentation visible? Is it okay?
Sir,
is it okay? Can you see the slides?
Sir, it is not sharing.
No?
It is not. No, sir. No, sir.
Just a minute.
Now it is
Now?
presenting.
Is this showing now?
Okay, it's now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, in fact, biological anthropologists has three objectives. Number one, human variation, human adaptation, and human evolution. And if you look at these three objectives, they are also linked with each other. So, for example, we find tremendous diversity among human individuals. Not quite to say human, all living individuals. So, for example, in case of humans, we find tremendous diversity. Now, this diversity is actually the stepping stone of evolution. Without this diversity, we cannot think of evolution. Now, the question is, why this diversity? This diversity perhaps appears because of environmental kick. And this diversity sustains if natural selection operates on this diversity. And in course of time, when these changes accumulates over time, evolution occurs. That is from microevolution to macroevolution. Now, having said this, let me provide you this slide. This is Charles Darwin. You all know Charles Darwin laid the foundation of organic evolution. And what he did, how he laid the foundation of organic evolution, he actually took a voyage from Plymouth, located in England. It's a long voyage that you took down the west-east coast of America, passing down the west coast of America, taking around via Australia, touching the tip of South Africa, again returned to Plymouth. And in course of this journey, of this travel, he spent a lot of time at different places, at different landscapes, studied the flora and fauna, collected specimens. Say, for example, when he was in Galapagos Island, Galapagos, if you look at your screen, on the left side, on the top of Latin America, you see, he studied the finches, a type of birds who perhaps he thought of that they shared certain similarities. There are a number of finches, but the finches differed in beak types, type of beak. Some have beaks meant for picking up fishes. Some have beaks meant to pick up seeds, fruits. So he found the beaks of these finches are different, but many of the characteristics are similar. That perhaps made him realize that they all share a common origin. And if you trace back, they perhaps would have a common ancestor. So after returning to Plymouth, covering this big voyage of Beagle, he started analyzing it, and finally he came up with the manuscript on the origin of species by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. This is the full name of the book. We already know the origin of species, or many of us know a little bit more, origin of species by means of natural selection. But very few of us know that this is the complete title of the book, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. Now, when Darwin prepared this manuscript and submitted to the publisher Murray in sometime in April 1859, Murray refused to publish this article because in this particular manuscript, Darwin contested the creativity theory and suggested that all living organisms that we see today have a common origin, and they originated from lower order organisms, which was against the belief of the church. Now, when he submitted, it was actually a 490 pages volume. Murray refused. He said that you better write book on something else, but Darwin was confident. He insisted that you go for the publication, and finally, in November 1859, the book got published, and the first press run of this book, 1,250 copies got sold, and within the next 2-3 months, more than 3,000 books, and it kept on selling and selling. It was a super duper hit. People started learning about organic evolution. Publication of this book, as well as success from this book, led Darwin to write A Step Ahead, contesting human evolution. And he wrote a book which argued that human beings that we see in modern day also evolved from lower order organisms. And the title of the book is The Descent of Man and Selection in Relation to Sex. This second part of the second subtitle of the book, many of us do not know, and Selection in Relation to Sex, published in 1871. By that time, Charles Darwin earned FRS, Fellow of Royal Society, right? And this book actually hinted that there is a missing link between modern day human and apes. As soon as this book got published, people started looking for what is the missing link? Where is the missing link? Before this publication of 1859 volume, some fossil evidence were discovered from the caves of Gibraltar, and as well as from the caves of Gibraltar, and as well as from the caves of Gibraltar, as well as from southern France by Lateoli. Those are of Dryopithecus fontani, and Gibraltar is of a human-like skull. But those fossil evidences were not paid much, analyzed much, but only people started saying that perhaps they have these skeletal remains or fossil remains have similarities with modern day apes and humans, but not studied thoroughly. So after the publication of Darwin's book, these fossils, which were kept as exhibit in Natural History Museum of London, were restudied. Also, people simultaneously started looking for new fossils to find out the missing link between human and apes. And also, some new fossils were unearthed. But what happened? In course of time, fossils did come up. Fossils were unearthed. But people were very much confused because the journey of human evolution was not known to them. So they found it difficult to relate one fossil with the another. So haphazard nomenclatures to these fossils were made, and people started conjecturing that this is closer to human or that is closer to human. What happened later on with discovery of more fossils down the 100 years time, with development of new technique of dating and analysis of fossils, now we are able to understand what is perhaps the probable trajectory of human evolution from the apes. But still, this is still fuzzy, this is still slippery. Any day, any fossil, new fossil may come and contest the existing line of thought. So this is never-ending process. So far, whatever we have learned, I will try to depict right from the period of Darwin till now about the journey of human evolution. Now, in course of finding out this missing link, one interesting incident happened that I would like to share with you, and many of you know, but I'm giving you the details of it. It was Charles Dawson and Arthur Smith Woodward. They were excavating at a place called Piltdown Cave in Sussex in England, and in 1912, they reported to have discovered a skull whose skull cap is more of a human-like and large-brained, but jaw is primitive. And they named it Anthropus dawsoni, and they said that this particular specimen belongs to a period of 500,000 to 1 million years, and they got published this article in a quarterly journal of Geological Society of London in 1913, and the title was On the Discovery of a Paleolithic Human Skull and Mandible in a Flint-Bearing Gravel Overlying the Weldon, Hastings Bay at Piltdown. Sir Arthur Kitt, who was a very renowned scholar during that time and made a lot of name on fossil studies, who also studied with B.S. Guha the skeletal remains of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and who also wrote a chapter in S.S. Sarkar's volume on aborigines of human races, he was not confident. He was a bit skeptical because the combination of the fossil that he saw or studied, perhaps he didn't like or didn't found it very possible. Later on, the discoveries that took place of Australopithecus from Africa and other fossils, because Australopithecus, the first fossil was discovered from Africa in 1925 by Raymond Dirk. I'll come to that much later after this Yanthropus dorsali. That perhaps these things perhaps kept on harping Arthur Keith that whether this fossil is relevant or not, is a relevant candidate for missing link or not. And it was Kenneth Oakley, a British Museum, an employee of British Museum, a scholar of British Museum of Natural History, along with Hoskins. They developed a new method of dating technique, relative fluorine dating technique, and compared, the bones contain fluorine. And he compared the fluorine content of the bones of the fossil as well as with the other faunas discovered in the Piltdown area during the same time, and found that they are not matching, which led them to publish a paper in Nature in 1950, new evidence on the antiquity of Piltdown man, and proved that Piltdown man is a hoax. Having said this, let me start my journey. Human evolution, we find a gradual change. You see the figure over there, you can see the external morphology, how it is changing. And the figure down below, you see how the skeletal morphology changed with time. And the extreme right one is of human. And you see the skeletal structure of human and compare with the first skeletal structure, which is of gibbon. And you can make out what magnificent changes occurred in human skeleton in course of evolution. But what changes we study? Is it biological? Is it cultural? Or is it a combination of biological and cultural? Why these changes occurred? On and off these changes cannot occur until and unless there is an environmental kick. That means if you don't feel a kick from the environment, then you will not find any modifications taking place. And finally, what is the consequences of these changes? Has it improved the cultural practices of this pre-hominid groups? Now let us talk about the structural changes that took place. The first few slides I will talk about the structural changes, and you can see from this slide that how the upper extremity has become shortened in case of humans. You see the rib cage, how it became flattened, not like a barrel shape. How the lower extremity became elongated, skull erected. See the position of foramen magnum, and the bending of the skull is orthognathous rather than stooping, as you can see. And this happened primarily because of the shift in the position of foramen magnum. And if you look at the arrow down, you see how the foramen magnum became more anteriorly shifted compared to the first figure. And as a result of which, human skull became vertically oriented and face uplifted, and this shift in foramen magnum gave a lot of change, brought a lot of change in human posture as well as structure. Say, for example, you see the skeletal change, skull change in the skull from skull number 1 to skull number 6 through 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see how the robust jaw and face became reduced, and you see the skull volume became enlarged and rounded and globular. So this didn't happen in one day or in 1 year. It took millions and millions and millions of years to come to this stage, passing through some subsequent intermediate stages of human skull. Now, if you look at closely, this is a skull of an ape and the skull of a human being at the adjacent, and you see the arrows that I'm pointing to. The lowest arrow is pointing towards diastema, the interlocking system that we find in apes, but not in human, right? Because in human, you see the teeth, you see all are on the same plane, occlusal plane, which is not in case of apes. You see the prognathism near the nose. I put an arrow there. How prognathous the face is without any nose. You see the forehead, where you can find out the elevated brow ridges, which is supraorbital torus. And you see the sagittal crest, right? So these structures, and you see the figure on the right of modern human, you see how complete change it took place, where the skull volume, where the brain case became so smooth, so rounded, so voluminous, and the face became so shortened, so modest and gracile. So this total change took place in course of human evolution. And this is the modern face that you see: vertical forehead, maximum height of the skull, the canine fossa, and so on. So also the change in the dental arcade. You see the dentition of the apes and now the modern dentition. You see the teeth size has become reduced, shortened. The parabolic, the jaw has become U-shaped, a parabolic. And look at the pelvic girdle structure, how it improved from elongated shape to anterior to bilateral expansion. And because of this, all this happened because of bipedal locomotion. I also see the angle of the head of the femur with the shaft of the femur. You see it has also changed in course of human evolution. Now, having said the structural changes that occurred in human evolution, which made complete human being, which provided the human being the contemporary structure, we need to know the evolutionary path to humans that starts from the advent of primates. Primates means the order primates in which human beings, apes, and monkeys belong to. And if this is the order of classification of, or this is the classification of order primates, you see human belong to the superfamily Hominoidea. I have put an arrow mark, which holds the members of which are apes and human. Right? My focus will be specially on this Hominoidea, not the entire group, because otherwise it will be very difficult to end up in this particular one lecture. So how this Hominoidea, how we evolved to humans, and in order to do that, we need to know who are the contemporary monkeys that we see. We see monkeys from Prosimian. You can see the first tertiary, right? 2 New World monkeys, 2 lemur, 2 gorilla and chimpanzee. So gorilla and chimpanzee, you know, they are the members of superfamily Hominoidea, and they share a common ancestry. And all these perhaps shared a common ancestry with each other. And this particular figure will help you to know what is it. Say, for example, the monkeys that we see, they perhaps had a common ancestor around 23 million years ago. Gorillas, they had a common ancestor perhaps 10 million years ago. So all the contemporary primates that we see, they had a common ancestry, they share a common ancestry, and together down the line, we have in the yellow box, you can see a common ancestry of humans, African apes, and monkeys. So from this stock, diversification gradually took place from years together, and finally contemporary primate members we see today have this type of perhaps phylogenetic origin. Now, in order to understand primate evolution, we need to know the geological timescale. And this geological timescale is very important because this is the frame of reference for which we study the evolution, and we try to find out the number years of millions of years, how before these fossils appeared. The geological timescale is also important to know because of the climatic condition in which these primates pass through. Say, for example, our focus, the geological timescale is divided into 3 eras: Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic. And our focus will be on Cenozoic because this is the period where primates first emerged. And within this each era, there are number of epochs. Say, for example, since we are focusing on Cenozoic, let us see how many epochs or Cenozoic era is divided to. You see, there are 7 such epochs within the Cenozoic era, and they are Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, and I have enlarged the font size from Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, and Holocene because my focus will be from Miocene onwards, where the ancestors of modern day monkeys and apes emerged. So from Miocene onwards, my journey will start up to Holocene. let us skip away the other three epochs. So Miocene is an epoch where the ancestors to old world monkeys, apes appeared, and Pliocene, Pleistocene, the ancestors to modern humans appeared. So we will be discussing onwards. Now, this is the geological time scale if you look at, and if you see from Miocene to Pliocene, and on the left side, the first column, if you look at, you see Proconsul, Dryopithecus, Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus. The first column you see on Miocene, you see these are the fossil specimens which are considered to be the ancestors of modern day apes. And Pliocene onwards, we find the ancestors of modern hominid group appeared, Ramidus, and Australopithecus, Homo, and so on. But before that, Oligocene we find, during the period of Oligocene, we find Egyptopithecus. I will start with Egyptopithecus now. Now, coming to this Egyptopithecus group, they are arboreal quadruped. Arboreal means those who live in, most of the time they spend in trees. They are arboreal living. They walk on four quadrupeds. They weigh around 13 pounds. They have large cusps, the crevices on the teeth, occlusal surface of the teeth, and the incisors are very broad, which suggests that they were fruit eaters. They had muscles, and scholars consider they are a primitive form of old world monkeys and also of hominoids. So they are considered to be the ancestors of old world monkeys. Old world monkeys means langur, rhesus monkeys, their ancestors, as well as the ancestors of human and apes. They appeared during Oligocene period. Coming to the Miocene fossils, who are considered to be the fossils of ancestors to modern day apes, Proconsul, which is found mostly in Africa, and we find Dryopithecus, the European ancestors to our European ape ancestors, and these are some fossils. And we find Sivapithecus and Ramapithecus. Sivapithecus and Ramapithecus, if you look at the Siva, Rama, Sivalic fossils, because Siva and Rama, Sivalic is considered, Himalayas is considered to be the abode of Lord Rama and Siva. So they are named in like this. Pithecus means apes, Sivapithecus, Ramapithecus. This was first Simons and Pilbin. They discovered it, and it was for a long time. Ramapithecus was, when we were students, we were taught that Ramapithecus is a hominid. But later on, it was proved that Ramapithecus appeared around 15 million years ago, and human and ape split took place 5 million years ago. It is because they prove it by molecular clock theory, and this rejected or negated the hominid status of Ramapithecus. Because how come Ramapithecus, appearing 15 million years ago, can become a member of hominid, knowing the fact that hominid and apes splitted around 5 million years ago? But why scholars considered Ramapithecus to be a probable candidate of hominid ancestry? Because of their teeth pattern. Their teeth were small. They have occlusals. They have scratching floors of the floor. The scratch marks of the floors found in the floors of this, occlusal surface, and also the size of the tooth, the enamel content of the tooth suggests that they were hard seat eaters and they were more modern hominid-like. So that's the reason you can see some of the specimens shown here appeared. Perhaps that Ramapithecus is an ancestor to hominid. But later on, it was proved that no, Ramapithecus is not an ancestor to hominid. Sivapithecus and Ramapithecus are now considered to be the same thing. Siva, the male form, Rama, the female form. An important discovery simultaneously took place in this part by Simons and Chopra, Shivraj Kumar Chopra, the person who is actually the founder of Punjab University Anthropology Department, and he actually trained a wide range of students who are actually now doing well in paleoanthropology. And he also prepared a museum of anthropology, paleoanthropology in Chandigarh. If you happen to visit Chandigarh University Anthropology Department, make sure to visit that museum. Shivraj Kumar Chopra, he found a Gigantopithecus specimen, mandible and tooth, which is gibbonoid, from Sibalic fossils, and Simons and Chopra's this discovery made a significant mark of Indian paleoanthropology. Now, let us, having talked about the ancestors to modern day apes and hominoids, let us now move to hominid group, that is the Australopithecines. The first hominid to evolve were the Australopithecines. Now, my dear students, who are hominids? Hominoid, members of the superfamily Hominoidea, but hominids are the members of the family hominid. So who can be considered as hominid? Australopithecus and Homo. Why? Because they are bipedal, erect posture, reduced teeth size, especially canine. Canine teeth reduced means no diastema. I showed you the figure of diastema. And finally, increased brain volume. So these 4 points justify why Australopithecus and Homo were considered to be hominids. Now, Australopithecus, when we talk of Australopithecus, means southern apes. Australo means south, Pithecus means apes. We find only their distribution in Africa, especially down the west coast, east coast of Africa. You look at the point 18, Ethiopia, Kenya, 24, Tanzania, 44, and come down 41, that is South Africa. So these are the major places where Australopithecus were found. In Ethiopia, the serial number is 18. Kenya on the east coast, you look at 24, Kenya. Then we find 44, Tanzania. Tanzania is a place where the Olduvai Gorge is located, and 41, South Africa. Apart from this, we also discovered one Australopithecus specimen, which is a Chad named 99 in Central Africa. Now, if you look at this, I mean, after having a look of the map of Africa, let us move to what are the different types of Australopithecus we get. Broadly, Australopithecus is divided into 2 groups. One is the gracile group, another one is the robust group. Now, it is anticipated, or it is believed, I mean, generally people will believe, or many of us will believe, that robust form will appear first in the prehistory and then the gracile form. But it happened in the other way around. It is interesting that gracile forms of Australopithecus appeared much earlier compared to the robust form. And gracile form, we have 2 varieties. One is the afarensis, another one is the africanus. The afarensis Australopithecus specimens were found in East Africa, that is Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya. And africanus group is found only in South Africa. In the robust group, we find 2 categories. Boise, that is the robust form of Australopithecus that is found from East Africa. So we say Australopithecus boise represents from East Africa, and Australopithecus robustus represent from South Africa. So in both the 2 regions, East Africa and South Africa, we find gracile as well as robust forms, but they differ to some extent from each other. And these are the sites you can see. You can see Hadar, Middle Awash. These are 2 important paleoanthropological sites from Ethiopia. You see Olduvai and Lateoli, that is in Tanzania. And Lake Turkana is a site that is in Kenya. And if you look at the South Africa, we find 4 sites important: Sterkfontein, Swartkrans, Kromdraai, and Tong. Sterkfontein, Swartkrans, Kromdraai, and Tong, and you find Chad there, where we find recently, around 20 years before, we find a discovery of Australopithecus type there in Chad. I will come to that. And these are probably some photographs that were constructed, that were prepared by different artists, how the Australopithecus would have looked like if they were alive now. And they would have moved like this, hunted, foraged like this. These are some sketches I'm trying to show you. And these are some real prehistoric sites or paleoanthropological sites, like Kobi Fora in Turkana, where the scientists, they are moving around in search of fossils. This is Lateoli site. I'm showing you these figures to show you how meticulously, how seriously these people work years together, not wasting a single time, encountering so much of stress, and in search of fossils, in unearthing of fossils, how they work together from years together. This is an Ethiopian site where I'm showing you that how the surface exploration, how surface materials are. You can see the bones remains there. This is Olduvai Gorge. All of you have learned about it. The deep Serengetic plain filled with lateritic soil, vegetation. This is another view of Olduvai Gorge. And Olduvai Gorge, indeed, the fossil findings in Olduvai Gorge and other places of Africa, in fact, enriched the knowledge of human evolution, clarified the knowledge of human evolution. Prior to that, it was not clarified because it yielded so much of rich fossil records that the human evolution became more clear as as scholars started unearthing fossils from. And I told you that 1925 was the first fossil reported by Raymond Durt. I will come to that later on. East Africa, Olduvai Gorge. When I talk about, we should mention the contribution of Leakey family. You see Richard Leakey, who is in the attire of a field worker. You see how he's sitting there taking rest. And on the right side, you see Louis Leakey and his wife, Mary Leakey, were aged. Both are they made renowned, significant contribution in East Africa, and they have Leakey Foundation over there. Below you find two figures. One gentleman is Richard Leakey, son of Neve and son of Mary and Louis Leakey, and on the left is Neve Leakey, the daughter-in-law of Leakey family. So Richard Leakey's wife. So these family contribute a lot in Olduvai Gorge and in the discovery not only of Australopithecus but also the discovery of various specimens of Homo. And these are some of the books. Olduvai Gorge, 1951 to 1961, LSB Leakey, Cambridge University Press. Richard Leakey's volume with Roger Levin, Origins Reconsidered, and also Origins by Richard Leakey, another particular volume. So these are some of the volumes of contribution of the Leakeys. And these are some photographs. You can see Robert Broom on the left, down below. Raymond Durt. This is the Leakeys, the Leakey couple. And this is a famous footprint. This particular famous footprint, which was discovered around from the volcanic ash by Mary Leakey in 1976, proved that Australopithecus were biped. You see, prior to that, in East Africa, the first Australopithecus fossil that was reported was in 1959, Zinjanthropus boise, which was later named as Australopithecus boise. I'll come to that. But in 1976, but that was a huge fossil. But that time also, people didn't consider Australopithecus to be hominid. They were biped. But in 1976, this particular footprint on volcanic ash, the fossilized footprint of volcanic ash, were studied. And it was confirmed around dated 3.6 million years ago that around 3 particular individuals moved around this volcanic ash. And the range of this footmark was 88 feet, that is 27 meter long. And if you look at the architecture of the feet, the closeness of big toe to the rest of the fingers, the depression of the heels, the depression of the front toe, which suggests a heel-toe movement that we do, right? The foot architecture, the curvature of the lateral side and the mediolateral side, all these indicate that this Australopithecus were biped. Prior to that, it was not believed that they were biped. Now, if you look at the Australopithecus genera, you see Afarensis, Africanus, Robustus, and Boise. So Robust and Boise, though they are huge in body size, they appeared late in the history, as I said. Now, Australopithecus, some recent discoveries that took place from 2000 years onward, again questions Australopithecus origin. Say, for example, the discovery of Sahelanthropus Orrorin ardipithecus. Sahelanthropus, these particular specimens, people are now arguing they are Australopithecus-like because they were all biped. But the other characteristics of Sahelanthropus Orrorin and ardipithecus are quite different from Australopithecus. Say, for example, Sahelanthropus chardensis. This was a discovery only from the Central Africa in Chad by Ahunta, who did it discovery and found out that this specimen belongs to 6 to 7 million years ago, and the position of foramen magnum of this skull and the size of the small size of the canine teeth perhaps placed him in hominid ancestry. But people are not sure whether they can be labeled as true Australopithecus or not. Similarly, the Orrorin bone specimen found from Kenya in East Africa, it suggests the femur bones and the fragmentary arm bones suggest that they were probable bipeds, right? So these are some arguments, and also reminders 4.4 to 5 million, about 5.8 million years ago, their teeth or suggest that this size of the teeth suggests that they were perhaps the hominid groups, but other characteristics do not match. So these were considered to be early form of Australopithecus by some scholars. This is an Ardipithecus reconsidered. Now come to the gracile form of Australopithecus, the major group that we get, Australopithecus afarensis, which represents the gracile form of Australopithecus from East Africa. And we found discovery from Hadar, Ethiopia, Lateoli, Tanzania, and very other states. And one such typical specimen was Lucy. In Hadar, a complete skeleton of a female skeleton of about 25-year-old was discovered, and they had face-like, ape-like face, low forehead, a brown bony ridge over the eyes, flat nose without any chin, and the cranial capacity is 375 to 550, discovered from Tanzania. And Donald Johansson, who discovered that, you see why he gave the name of Lucy. When we first saw that particular fossil remains, his eyes glittered. His eyes glittered. He was sure that some new discovery he is going to make. In the evening, he was listening to the song of Beatles. You know the Beatles, the famous rock star of US during that time. He was listening to the music of Beatles singing Lucy, Lucy, Diamond in the Sky. And one of his campmates said, "Sir, why don't you keep the name Lucy? Give the name to that specimen Lucy." And this is how Lucy name came and became very popular. And this is the reconstruction of Lucy. This is the specimen of Lucy that you can see with Donald Johnson, and later on the reconstruction of rest of the skeletal has been done, and this is how the preservation has been made. So this is Australopithecus afarensis, a gracile form of Australopithecus discovered from East Africa. This is how Lucy was found, buried at one side, right? The pelvic bones, how it resembles. This is how it was found, the Lucy in situ. Then in 1925, the first discovery of fossils, hominid fossils from Africa. South Africa, the place is Tong. Who discovered? Raymond Durt. And it has a big story. Raymond Durt was a professor of University College of London, and he was given a charge to go to Johannesburg to open a museum on anatomy, on museum on human skeleton. He went there, and one fine morning, when he was preparing himself to leave to attend a marriage ceremony, 2 trunks filled with skeleton was handed over to him. They were collected from Tom. So he couldn't what to say, he couldn't restrain his curiosity. He opened one trunk and found a cast of a brain. The cast of a brain shows how the hindbrain is covered by the forebrain and midbrain, and the convolutions of the brain cast, that sparkled him, and he thought that this cast must be of 3 to 4 times more than of a gibbon and orang. And he was thinking that this cast must be of an advanced fossil which is closer to Homo, because they were continuously in search of missing link. I'm talking about missing link. Now he was getting late to attend the marriage ceremony, but anyway, after his return, he focused on that skeleton, and gradually he noticed that from the gravel quarry, he unearthed the entire skull. It was a baby skull with teeth, small size deciduous teeth inserted into it. And he said that, and he published the paper in 1925. 1924 was the discovery, 1925 was the publication, Australopithecus africanus, the man ape of South Africa. And he focused that, he said that this is a group which represents the relation intermediate between living apes and primitive mankind, and he called it man ape. And in 1925, and he actually discovered he could retrieve the entire skull 3 days before the Christmas on 1934, and he said, Dirt wrote, I quoted, I doubt if there was any parent prouder of his offspring than I was of my tongue's baby on the Christmas of 1924. So just 3 days before, he kept on screwing and trying to bring out the skull with the help of his wife's sharp knitting needles, right? And he commented that Dodd believed that he had vindicated Charles Darwin's claim that Africa would prove to be a cradle of humankind. So this is a fantastic thing what Raymond Dodd did. And in fact, this discovery was very controversial again. Again, I quote Arthur Kidd, he was not in favor of this particular findings. He was not supportive of, but Dodd gradually proved this to be the correct and a probable candidate between candidate of ancestor of human being, modern human being. Now let me show. So I have showed you a specimen from afferences of East Africa, another of South Africa, which is Africanus. But how can you differentiate how the afferences are more human-like than Africanus? Africanus means the South African Australopithecus, and afferences represents East African. And it is said that the body size of afferences, that is East African variety, is more human-like, brain size more human-like, foramen magnum more human-like, teeth size more human-like, and so also the jaw shape. So this is the basic difference. And then comes the robustus. Australopithecus robustus, as I said, this is the robust form, which is otherwise also called as Paranthropus robustus, is a robust form discovered from South Africa, especially from places like Kromdraai. I have pointed the arrow in the map, and Swartkrans. They actually existed around 2 to 1.5 million years ago, much later than the gracile form. This surprises the scientific community. How come a robust form appeared later in a history, or later in a history compared to the gracile form? And what is the characteristics of the robust form? A massive face is flat or dished, no forehead, large brow ridges, large massive teeth, everything massive, and cranial capacity 530 cc. So still is a mystery how this robust form appeared. Same thing with Boise, Zinjanthropus boise, again discovered by Mary Leakey. Mary Leakey on 17th of July 1959 left her camp. Louis Leakey was taking rest because he was having fever. When he moved into the site, he found a teeth shining. He noticed the teeth coming out from the gravels. So he ran, he rushed to the tent, pulled Leakey up, Louis up, and took him to the. Louis identified that he must be of a hominid specimen. And we took years together to unearth that, and that was the name. That time the name given to it was Zinjanthropus boise. Zinzis means dear boy, and the journalist named them as nutcrackers because the teeth of the Zinjanthropus were very grounded and with thick enamel, which suggests that they were hard seed eaters or nut takers. So the journalist actually named them as Zinjanthropus, as nutcrackers, commonly known as. So 1959, this was a remarkable discovery. Later on, from Lake Turkana, Richard Leakey also discovered similar type of fossils, 1.8 to 1.1 million, again resembling that close to Robustus time period, and also much later than the Africanus forms. And if you look at this skeletal features. You see so robust that form is. It has a sagittal crest also. Skeletal skull cranial capacity 530 cc and or so. This is what Mariliki is looking closely, trying to unearth that fossil, and she used to. There you can see two dogs, Dalmatian. They used to stay with them in the field. And this is the plaque that they presented 17th July 1959 when they first observed the fossil remain in this particular area. Now, to wind up Australopithecus, what we can say, Sahelanthropus, which is also called as pre-Australopithecus group, but were considered to be hominid, 6 to 7 millions, followed by Orrorin, around 6 million, Ardipithecus, 4.4 to 4.8, gracile forms, the true representatives of Australopithecus, represented by Afarensis and Africanus, 4.2 to 2 million, and robust form, which is unlike from the gracile group, is 2.6 to 1.0 million years. So this is the trajectory of Australopithecus. I can end here. And this probably, who led to genus Homo? That is a big question. Some say Afarensis gave rise to Homo. Some said no, Africanus. So the debate is still on who actually gave rise to genus Homo. Look at this. Coming to genus Homo, who first evolved in Africa. And look at this figure. It suggests that Homo means you have power grip, you have precision grip. This particular figure is holding holding a stone with the fingers, and another a log with finger folded, fist folded, which is the power grip. So genus Homo means we have human beings now possess power grip and precision grip. Now, how Homo is developed from Australopithecus? One, the brain volume is more compared to Australopithecus. We have now chin, power grip and precision grip, prognathism reduced, and very interestingly, culture. So these 5 points make Homo superior to Australopithecus. Increased brain volume, presence of chin, power grip, precision grip, help to develop culture, reduced prognathism. Another important, that means the jaw bones are reducing, the teeth size are reducing, that means prognathism less means the skull is more vertically oriented, foramen magnum is shifting more anteriorly, and culture. So culture also helped the biology to develop, and biology also helped the culture to develop. In this case, this is the case of Homo, and the trajectory of evolution of genus Homo is the fastest compared to any other evolution of any other organisms of this world. Now, if you look at the genus Homo, we have 4 species broadly: habilis, erectus, archaic sapiens, modern sapiens. Out of which habilis is restricted only in Africa, erectus in Africa, Asia, and Europe, then archaic sapiens, and modern sapiens is spread across the world. Now, how habilis, erectus, archaic sapiens, modern sapiens, how they differ from each other? What happened? Now, you can see a gradual increase in brain volume from habilis to modern Homo sapiens, gradual reduction of ruggedness in skull from habilis to Homo sapiens, gradual changes towards perfect erect posture, and gradual development in tool making ability. So all these 4 points, you find out a change from habilis to modern Homo sapiens. Habilis, first discovered around 1859 from Olduvai. Also, it was reported from Kobi Fora in Turkana, around 1.8 billion years, right? That time, perhaps coexistence took place with Australopithecus and habilis, perhaps. And they have several primitive features, but mostly they are advanced compared to Australopithecus group. And this is a type specimen that was discovered by Jonathan Leakey, right, from Olduvai, Tanzania. Homo habilis, 1.75 billion, November 4. This is a jawbone, and if you look at the teeth size, you see almost modern human-like teeth you can see, especially the post-canine teeth. Post-canine teeth means the premolars and molars, which is the teeth which are beyond the canine teeth, backside of the canine teeth, which is called post-canine teeth, that is premolars and molars. And this is the find area from where Homo habilis was discovered, Lake Turkana, and these are the tools associated, all-to-one tools, right? Bone horns and others, tool technology, rounded pebbles, portions broken from sharp edges. So there are very rudimentary form of tools they were used to, bone points, horn cores they used, right? So these are the rudimentary forms of tool use found among Homo habilis, and some people, scholars who practice as experimental archaeology, try to find out how they use these tools to butcher the animals. So this is an experimental archaeology. I'm showing you this slide. Then after habilis, we get erectors. Homo erectus played a very important role. Erectors means perfect erect. And this is from this point, Homo erectus migrated from Africa and moved out of Africa and occupied different parts of the old world, right? Asia and other parts of Europe. Homo erectus means they were perfect erect man. They have much modern, anatomical structures. Their forehead was vertical. You see the skull structure, you see they have enlarged cranial volume. And the first specimen of Homo erectus, you all know, Ugandid boy's discovery from the from the place of Java, beside the river Trinil. All of us know he discovered a skull cap in 1891 along with a femur bone. And this is Ugandu boys. And later on, from this particular area, a huge number of fossil evidences were discovered from Trinil, Watsek, Motsuketo, Sangiran, etc. Not necessarily of Homo erectus, but of other specimens also. Later on in 1901, all the students of PSC, they study picking man, right? 1901, from the Zaukaudian area, Homo erectus, you see the structure of the teeth and figures. So all these were coming up, and these were the discoveries that got impetus from the scholars, got impetus from the famous book of Darwin, Descent of Man. So these discoveries took place after 1871 and all those. And now you find, later on, we find discoveries of Homo erectus from across the different parts of the country, of the world, especially the old world, Europe and America, from Zaukaudian, Lantian, Zava, and so on. Now, Homo erectus traits. What's the typicality of Homo erectus traits? They lived in the world around 2 million to 400,000 years ago. They had a cranial capacity which is 50% more than that of habilis. Their body proportions are more contemporary human-like. That means their upper limb became shorter than the lower limb. Their trunk size also became shorter compared to the lower portion. Their teeth size became reduced. Why? I put an arrow, because they had a change in the dietary course. They started taking softer food because discovery of fire took place during this time, by this group perhaps, we anticipate. And discovery of fire means they roasted the food. Roasting means you are softening the food. You require less chewing power. You require less musculature. The size of the teeth becomes reduced. So this, perhaps, discovery of fire, expansion of population base, perhaps created a population pressure in Africa, and that's the particular reason why erectors moved out and were successfully survived across the world, because they were more flexible, more adaptive, more adjusting to the nature, and they were more exploring, they tried to explore the environment more efficiently. And these are certain traits which I discussed, that they had no chin, thick and high brow ridges, bigger teeth than moderns. So compared to modern humans, modern Homo sapiens, they lack certain things, the characteristics that I tried to discuss here. And I said that Africa, Asia, and Europe, and we find in Europe, they started moving around 400,000 years. They were probably the first hunter. They were probably group hunting. They used to practice group hunting. Group hunting means you are communicating. You are planning. That means your cognition is developing, right? You are producing signals to accommodate your colleague, to coordinate with your colleague for big game huntings. They started staying in campsites. So these are certain interesting development, cultural development that we find with erectors. And one such specimen is the Turkana boy. Lake Turkana in Kenya, almost an adolescent boy of 11 to 12 years, we find getting this specimen with some of the bones missing, obviously. And this Turkana boy was later called as Homo ergaster, the Homo ergaster, which is called the most earlier form of Homo erectus. And this Homo ergaster has been reported first from from Nariakotom in Kenya, later on by Ronald Clark in Swartkrans, that is South Africa, Richard Leakey from Kobi Fora, again from Kobi Fora, and another from Afar in Ethiopia. So these are some of the extent ergaster. But ergaster we do not get, this ergaster form of Homo erectus we do not get in Europe and Asia, because much modified form of erectors moved into Europe and Asia compared to the one that we see in Africa. And these are the tools associated with it, Acheulean tools. You see the type of hand axes they used to prepare. These are some of the sites where I'm showing surface findings of tools. These are some of the tools from Kenya that were discovered. You see the hand axes you can make out, the flakes that were removed. You see the type of flaking they used to use. You see choppers, the core tools mostly you can find out. And these are some interesting tools, nicely photographed. Chopper you can see hand axe. And this is a sketch by a natural historian artist, that how they used to kindle the fires perhaps, and how they use fires. Now, use of fire, what they say is that they have been the first species to use and control fire, and perhaps this milestone they reached 1 to 1.5 million years ago. And control of fire may have enabled humans to move out of Africa and into colder climates of Europe and Asia. So this is from tropical countries, they are moving out to colder countries, to temperate and colder countries. So this fire perhaps enabled them to move out, because all humans are habituated to live in the tropical areas. Then came the archaic Homo sapiens. Archaic Homo sapiens means Homo sapiens who have some primitive Homo sapiens, that is modern man, modern human sapiens, who have retained some common archaic features. And these archaic Homo sapiens basically means Homo sapiens that did not look quite modern. They have a mixture of erectus characters as well as modern traits. And India yielded one such fossil from Hatnora, which is in Madhya Pradesh, Hoshangabad, in 1982. A geologist, Orrorin Sonakia, first discovered it, and it was analyzed and identified that perhaps this is a specimen of Homo erectus. Later, Kenneth Kennedy, a very important scholar, significant scholar, who restudied the skeleton and argued that this Narmada man possessed primitive and modern characteristics. So it should be designated as archaic sapiens. So Narmada man is now considered to be archaic sapiens. And much later, Anikram Sankhayan, a scholar of Anthropological Survey of India, he reported to Current Science that he discovered some clavicle and limb bones from Surajkund area in the same time, which dates back to the age of Narmada man. And he said that Narmada man was found from this particular level. I have pointed out the arrow, and clavicles at a much upper level at the Surajkund areas. So, but this is debated, that this is still there in the repository of Anthropological Survey of India. Or if you wish, you can go and have a look at it. The other areas, apart from India, across the world, we find archaic sapiens. And the density of these fossils is higher compared to erectus. So we find it from Germany, which we called Mayurjaw, Heidelberg man, right? Rhodesian man, Kabwe, Arago in France, Petralona in Greece. So these are the specimens, and if you can look at the chronological years from the dating, which we were discussing, these particular groups, archaic sapiens, actually earlier we used to study as progressive Neanderthals. Now this progressive Neanderthals has been dropped, and they are now labeled as archaic sapiens. This is an Arago skull. Tilumle discovered it, right? Dated 200,000 to 400,000 years for Arago from France. This is a Bodo cranium, another archaic sapiens representing East Africa, Ethiopia, 600,000. This is Heidelberg. This is Meyur jaw from Germany, you know. And what are the characteristics of archaic sapiens? The characteristics is they has marked double arched brow ridges. Cranial capacity 1000 to 1300. See the range increased. Mandibular thickness reduced compared to early erectors. Has small post-canines. Post-canine tooth means the premolars and molars became smaller. Molar means they were not used to take very rough and tough diet. Shovel-shaped incisors. This is an ancestral condition. So that's why they were archaic and found from Europe around 800,000 years. And then comes Neanderthal man, the grand old man of Neanderthal, which has created a lot of debate, a lot of controversy, found mostly from West Africa, West Europe during the Ice Age, Wurm glaciation period. Scholars argue that this group perhaps became locked in the Wurm glaciation. They couldn't move out and developed some typical features, and they remain as breeding isolate. But recent evidences say that Europeans have Neanderthal trace in their ancestry. This is again a controversy cropped up. And this is a type specimen found from La Chapelle in France, right? All of you have studied in 1908 Neanderthal, but before that, Gibraltar fossil, 1848, Pre Darwin period. I showed you the figure that was discovered. This is Neanderthal Homo sapiens. Perhaps Neanderthals were more stocky built compared to Homo sapiens. And look at the comparison of the skulls. You see near similar, but there are some sharp differences between humans and human skull volume and skull architecture. You see more smooth, rounded, higher elevation compared to this. Jaw also much moderate, gracile compared to Neanderthals. And Neanderthals, you know, they lived, most well-known late archaic Homo sapiens were the Neanderthals 130,000 years ago, mostly found in West Europe. And they developed certain typical characteristic features, which perhaps restrained them from moving out. And when we were students, a question used to come, Neanderthal problem. Write a note on Neanderthal problem. And we had to write how the Neanderthals appeared there, why the Neanderthals typically developed certain peculiar features, how the Neanderthals became extinct. So this is a very popular question that used to come when we were students of undergraduate courses. Neanderthal man also had a bigger brain capacity with a lobed skull that made the skulls longer. As I showed, the skull of Neanderthal is longer compared to that of modern sapiens. They have a lobed brain. They have powerful arms, legs, and torso. That's why I said they are stocky built. They are short statured. Their noses were adapted to cold because of their size, so they could breathe easily and retain the heat. And they had powerful teeth and jaws that were mostly used as tools and stripping things, perhaps. And these are the flake tools that dominated during that time, Mousterian culture. Flake tools, you know, which is the flakes that were departed from the cores and then fashioned. The flakes were removed. And also used of compound tools. Compound tools means when a stone tool is attached with a shaft by means of hafting, and it is compound tool. That means spears and darts you can throw at a long distance. That means you require eye-hand coordination. How much should be the force through which you will apply this dart or the spear, right? Use of small tools means preparing of small tools means the type of precision, the type of expertise you develop in fashioning and removing the flakes of the tools. That means your precision grip, power grip, so refined, so modified, which implies your brain capacity, your thinking power, right? Your eye-hand coordination, control over your body and muscles. So these tools reflects the type of development in musculoskeletal and also in intelligence and cognition level. This group of human beings appear to be. Now comes to modern sapiens. Around 120,000 years, 1350 CC, forehead sharp, eyebrow ridges are very small. We don't have eyebrow ridges, right? Or usually absent. Chin prominent, skeletal gracile. Representative, Cro-Magnon. And you know, in 1868, a group of railway men, when they were trying to place a railway line in a road cave, they found 5 buried individuals. And when they removed the burial, they found that the burial was associated with, remains of ivory, pendants, shells, reindeer antlers. Perhaps these people had a belief of concept of soul after life, which means their cognition, expression of religious thoughts, like so these are some intellectual development we find in case of modern Homo sapiens, and many such burials were found with graveyards, grave goods. I'll show you the comparison. And you see, this is a type specimen of Cro-Magnon man. You have all of you have seen from different phases, and you see how this modern Homo sapiens so widely spread. Even in Australia also you find Lake Mungo, Europe, Asia, Africa, South Africa, everywhere we get this modern Homo sapiens. And you see, these are some anatomical figures where we can get it. Late Mungo I showed you. You can see it from in Zaukaudian and many other places. And these are the tools, Upper Paleolithic great tools they're associated with. You see this type of sharpness they could make to give to the tools. So sharp it can pierce your skin, and you can make you bleed, right? So finely touched tools they prepared. And this is how they used to nap the tools. If Krishnendu is attending this program, Krishnendu can explain this in due course very well, how it is they are napping these tools, preparing this platform, and then finally bringing out the small longitudinal pieces of flakes, narrow flakes, which are called blades. This is another thing. You see the type of precision, the type of control they had, right? This is called punch blade techniques, and how the knives actually were coming up. I will end up very shortly because I have taken almost more than an hour. And these are blade tools. You have a mid-rib sloping surface, bilateral sharp margin. They used to prepare. Also this bone artifact. You see the drawings of the bones, which also reflects their aesthetics, their cognitive power, their reflection of thinking. Even we find in different bone tools this type of engravings, and also in the form of cave art. So I will show you some photographs. Now, if you compare the burial pattern between Neanderthals and Upper Paleolithic modern humans, you will find the burial pattern of modern humans more complex, because they used to offer burial goods, tools, and the remains of animals. Even pet dogs or animals were also buried along with the person. But in Neanderthals, it was a deliberate burial at several sites, but it is not that elaborate. That means burial groups were not found associated with Neanderthal burials. If you compare the hunting efficiency weapons of Neanderthals and modern humans, you can see that Neanderthals, they didn't use long distance, perhaps, but which we find in Upper Paleolithic. Stone materials transported only short distance, but here we find stone materials were transported over long distances, implying that they have social networks and perhaps trade. We don't know about it. Artwork also. If you compare the artwork of Neanderthals with Upper Paleolithic, we see artwork much more common, including transportable objects, elaborate cave work, variety of materials, and stylistic sophistication, which lacks in case of Neanderthals. And this is an Upper Paleolithic reported from Russia, dated 24,000 years ago. This is Upper Paleolithic art. You can see the cave art, the figuring of the fertility cult, perhaps. Another art from France. Another from France. And they use natural ochre. And they use natural color in painting this. And you find this similar type of cave paintings from various parts of this country also. And these are some of the tools, microlithic tools, Neolithic tools. You see the improvement in tools. That means more precision, more cognition, more control over body, more thinking, reflection of more thinking. So these are some of the reflections, and you see some skeletal. I'll show you some excavation sites, how they do the trenches, they dig the trenches, and they try to remove the materials. You see how painstakingly they put up camps and stay years together, months together to unearth the fossil. Maybe they take 1 to 2 years to unearth a small fossil. So much of dedication, and they toil everything how they do it. And this is on the left, you see Dalmatian Mins, Louis Leakey family, they are working over there. And now if you look at the chart over here, you see on one hand we find how biological evolution took place, and on the other how cultural evolution took place, and the Paleolithic stages. I tried to focus Homo habilis associated with Oldowan, which Oldowan continued till the early part of Homo erectus. Acheulean took over, moved into Hemostadian, so also archaic sapiens. So one hand, how the biology developed, simultaneously the culture of human also developed, became more improved, much more sophisticated. Now coming to the last part, theories of human origin. There are 3 models: out of Africa model, regional continuity model, and partial replacement model. What are these models talking about? Out of Africa model talks about, which was given by Christopher Stringer and Peter Andrews. They say that Africa is the birthplace of Homo sapiens. From Homo erectus, Homo sapiens emerged from Africa, and this Homo sapiens group migrated to different parts of the world and replaced the erectors in Europe, and Asia. This concept is also known as out of Africa hypothesis or complete replacement model, developed by British paleoanthropologists Stringer and Andrews, and proposes that anatomically modern populations arose in Africa in the last 200,000 years. They moved out of Africa and replaced the people of Europe and Asia, and they does not account from the transition from archaic Homo sapiens to modern Homo sapiens anywhere except Africa. They say that Africa actually, it is the place from where modern Homo sapiens developed, and this group migrated. So wherever you go, you can trace the ancestry of African from modern Homo sapiens contemporary. So this was an argument. So this is the photograph. They try to project that from Africa it moved out. You can see the footprints of African ancestry in every parts of the world. This is between 550 to 20,000. They moved out. You see in Africa hominoids. This is the same figure I was talking about. Exodus from Africa. They replaced the other hominids in Asia and Europe. And also they moved into the new world, that is America, somewhere through the Bering Land Bridge, around 1200 years. But the debate is still there because how they entered into the new world. And another contesting theory is, which was contested, this was contested by Milford Ulpoff after the discovery of Mungo Band in Australia, because that is the oldest DNA that was preserved, and the DNA shows some departure from modern humans, and the DNA had anatomy of Mungo Man are said to be close to those of humans of Java and China, which contest the out of Africa hypothesis, that no, everywhere it is not that African originated Homo sapiens got settled. Maybe from each region, archaic sapiens gave birth to Homo sapiens. Say, for example, from Europe, the archaic sapiens of Europe gave rise to modern sapiens of Europe. From Asia, archaic sapiens of Asians, they gave rise to archaic sapiens of modern sapiens. This is perhaps they tried to argue after the discovery of Mungo Man. And the last model was given by Gunter Prieur of Germany, Hamburg. He said there was no replacement, but there was a fusion between modern humans and archaic sapiens. And perhaps this is called a partial replacement model. So out of Africa model, regional continuity model, where it says that each region continued from erectus to archaic sapiens to modern sapiens, and partial replacement model, which partially agrees to out of Africa model, saying that, well, our African ancestry, Homo sapiens, migrated to different parts of the world, and they interbred with the existing archaic sapiens, and they gave rise to modern Homo sapiens. So these are some of the concepts that this is regional continuity model I'm talking about, right? And the lower one is actually the out of Africa hypothesis I was talking about. You can see Asian erectors gave rise to modern Asians, modern Australians. But here, the second diagram below, you see Africa to modern Africans, and from Africans, modern Europeans, modern Asians, modern Australians. You can see the two differences. And finally, let us try to chart out the trajectory of Homo sapiens. This is one. Afarensis africanus, Boise and robustus became deciphered. Some of these, either Africanus or Afarensis, gave rise to genus Homo. And then Homo sapiens finally. I'm giving you a more clear picture you can see here. Ardipithecus ramidus, Anamensis, and main came the stock of Afarensis. Perhaps Afarensis gave rise to, habilis, ergaster, erectors. So, and the other offshoot moved out towards robustus and Boise. But still, all these are still contested, still challenged, still ambiguous. But at present, we can at least be sure that modern human evolution, the human evolution that took place for millions and millions of years ago, I mean, it was not a cakewalk. It was not it was not. It is not very easy to trace it. It involves a lot of painstaking effort, and we are yet to come up with some confidence. I mean, with confidence that yes, this is the exact trajectory. As I said, any day, any moment, some new fossil discoveries as it is going on, may change, may bring a change in the trajectory of human evolution. And all these changes that took place in human evolution, which I stated earlier, because environment never remained same in this world. We experienced huge heavy rainfall, aridity, ice age. So all these changes in the environment that took place in the Pleistocene period compelled human beings, compelled all animals to adjust with this changing climate, because the flora and fauna also changed, the food habit also changed. Whoever could survive, brought changes in their own pattern, adapted, and many animals, many organisms became extinct. And with these words, I end up here. Thank you so much.
Sir, actually it is very difficult for me to say thank you. Sir, we are privileged for your thought-provoking, informative and motivating lecture for us as well as our students for the discipline. Sir, it's a great opportunity for our students as well to be a part of this exceptional session. Now, I would like to hand over the mic my colleague, Mr. Pinaki Demoli, for the interactive session. Pinaki, please go ahead with the session. Pinaki.
Thank you, Dr. Dash. First of all, thank you, sir. Thank you very much to being there with us, and thank you so much for your usual, vibrant and exceptional lecture on human evolution. And now it is time to start an interactive session. There is a question from Arijit Pradhan, one of our student. He asked that, sir, Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal, which one is closer to human being? Sir, it's to you now.
I couldn't hear your question. You were not audible for some time.
Okay, sir. Actually, the question is from Arijit Pradhan. He asked that, sir, am I audible?
Yes, now you are audible, Pinaki.
Okay.
Yes.
Arijit asked that, sir, Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal, which one is closer to Homo sapiens?
Yeah, obviously Cro-Magnon, because Cro-Magnon represents modern Homo sapiens, unlike Neanderthals.
Now, sir, no more questions in our chat box, YouTube live chat box, but there are a flow of comments. Thank you, sir. Nice presentations, excellent presentations, and so on. Another questions comes up now. It's from Aheli Bakshi. She asked that, sir, why Ginjanthropus boesi named Nutcracker?
During my lecture that it was actually named Zinzi. Zinzi means dear boy. There are many other, but Nutcracker is actually the journalist of South Africa. They gave this name Nutcracker because the teeth of Zinjanthropus were thickly enameled, has a thick enamel, and is very, which suggests that they were nut eaters. Nut means you have to crack the nut. You need enamel means there's the hardest part of the teeth. And so thicker enamel means suggests that your teeth is adjusted to take hard diet. So they considered Zinzi means, they called it commonly as nutcracker man, the Zinjanthropus.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next questions are from one of the faculty member, Dr. Solil Kumar Dotto. He has asked that, sir, please explain the assimilation theory of human evolution.
No, assimilation theory actually is this that is presented by Gunter Brewer, who said that it's not that they replaced. It actually says that they actually interbred with the existing archaic sapiens at different parts of the world, and this gave rise to modern sapiens.
Thank you, sir. Next one is again asked by Dr. Dotto, and he's asking that what is monkey trial?
I don't know about it, Shalil. I don't know. Really, I don't. Monkey trial, I have to look into it. I don't know. I'm not a researcher in human evolution. I don't know. Sorry, I have to learn it.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. No problem.
Sir, another case. It's from Abhishek Bhomik. Actually, he is writing that I have asked a question before Orijit Mondol, but actually I did not understand that question became too lengthy. Whatever might be, actually I am delivering the statements what Abhishek Bhomik has written. It is for trajectory, evolution rate, and geographical distribution of the four Homo species has molecular clock theory, a dependence on variation based on endocrine responses according to the climatic factors.
Abhishek, if you are my student Abhishek, then I'll address you by first name. If you are not that Abhishek, then I'm sorry because I cannot see you. So, but anyway, what Dr. Bhomik has asked is that it's a very complicated question that it is very difficult for me to understand. That you are talking about molecular clock theory. Molecular clock theory, endocrine, and another part is a big question, isn't it? And regional continuity or something, trajectory. Can this question be simplified so that?
Yes, sir. Actually, this is my point also. Abhishek, please, if you hear us, please simplify the question and make a statement, concrete statement. No, sir. Actually, Abhijit is not responding now.
Okay. We can handle it later. If he can write to me, then I will try to answer.
Okay, sir. Now another questions come from Dr. Dotto again. Actually, he wants to ask that please give me some highlights on Normoda teeth, Normoda man's teeth, probably.
Normoda man teeth. Normoda man.
Yes, sir.
You go through the article of current anthropology, current science. Current science is available in internet. You can download it by Anikram Sankayan. He has published 2 articles in current science, right? And also he suggested that there are 2 stocks of Normoda man over there. One is short statured, another one is very long. So he said that there were perhaps two groups of archaic sapiens, not one group. He contested to that. But later on, we did not find any confirmatory information, because he reported of some ribs, collarbone and humerus bone, right? That he reported. So that was not confirmatory about it. But he said that two groups of Narmada evidence were there, not a single group, because the fossil remain that he discovered does not perhaps tally with the one discovered by Sonakia.
Thank you, sir. There is no questions at all now, and we are running through time. Actually, sir, Abhishek has been cleared that no, I am different, Abhishek. Okay, we know that you are different, Abhishek. So please specify your questions. Otherwise, we can't deliver it to the honorable speaker. He is not responding, sir. So I am just giving so many thanks to you, sir. Now Abhishek is responding. I was asking about dependence of hormonal factors in molecular clock theory. So the question is dependence of hormonal factor in molecular clock theory. Sir.
You see, there are different ways by which scholars are now trying to find out phylogenetic relationship. One is through chromosomes, right? We are now phylogenetic relatedness can be checked from different points of view. One is the chromosomal structure and number. Second is from molecular. Second is from protein analysis. Say for example, the hemoglobin factor, myosin binding protein. So all these protein structures, molecular structures, and now it moved on to DNA level, right? So these evidences suggest that how far the protein structures are different from one group to another. And this is how they measure that this mutation takes place. If this mutation takes place at a constant rate, so by using back calculation, this molecular line of divergence is usually measured. So it is not protein. It can be done with any of this, DNA or exocrine or any other protein markers. And endocrine factors means you are talking of hormones, obviously. So anything can be done with this evidences.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Diotima Ghosh. She's asking that, sir, can you please repeat the three objectives of human evolution?
No, I have not repeated three objectives of human evolution. Three objectives of biological anthropology: variation, adaptation, and evolution. And all these three are related to each other. All these three are related to each other. That's what I said. Because variation is the stepping stone of evolution. And a successful variation which undergoes natural selection leads to evolution. So I talked about from microevolution to macroevolution. Here we have discussed mostly on macroevolution.
Thank you, sir. Another question is from Tikkam Ram. He's asking that what about Ramapithecus? And I think that you have discussed it
I have
discussed it.
Ramapithecus is an ancestral form of ape found from Haritalianagar, found from Sivalik Hills. And Ramapithecus was once considered to be hominid, but later on, from molecular clock theory, it was found that Ramapithecus appeared in this world around 15 million years, which is much later which is much earlier compared to human ape divergence.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No more questions, sir, because our time is now going far. So I am offering my mic to Dr. Bhuvan Mohandas, please.
Thank you, Pinaki. Now we reached almost at the end of today's lecture session. Now I would like to hand over this virtual dash to my another colleague, Dr. Soumi De, for the vote of thanks. Soumi, please.
Thank you, Dr. Das. So we will finally come to the end of the webinar. And it was wonderful to be together and listen to our teacher, Dr. Subho Roy. So on behalf of the Department of Anthropology, Haldia Government College, I express my sincere gratitude to our today's eminent resource person, Dr. Subho Roy, Professor of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, who has enriched us with his wonderful deliberation of knowledge. The topic of evolution is always very important for us, and as we always concerned with the question that from where we came. So thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation and giving us your valuable time. And next, I express my gratitude to our Honorable Officer in Charge, Dr. Piyush Kanti Tripathi. Without his support, it was not possible to arrange this type of webinar today. We are further grateful to our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka, also a co-organizer of this webinar. His continuous support encourages us a lot. And now I would like to thank our convener, Dr. Bhuban Mohan Das, and I should mention here that this webinar series is a brainchild of Dr. Das, who is also the head of the Department of Anthropology, Haldia Government College. He has taken an important part to make this webinar successful. I would also like to thank the entire team of organizing committee. A big thank you to them for their hard work to execute this webinar successful. We are also grateful to our technical expertise, Sri Sujan Shaha and Sri Shubhankar Barmon, for their technical assistance to make this webinar successful. And finally, last but not the least, I would like to thank our participants for being with us and making our effort meaningful. So thank you to all of you. Now it's over to Dr. Dash.
Thank you, Somi. Now, we reach at the end of the session, and before closing the session, I would like to seek permission from our officer in charge or Dr. IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka. If, sir, you are there, please permit me to close the session. I think they are not here. So thank you all. Thank you for your support. And before closing the session, I welcome and ultimately give my thanks to my sir, Professor Subho Roy. Sir, thank you with us and for a wonderful session. Now I am closing the session. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Sir.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the participants also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kub. Thank you, sir.
আমরা সেশন ক্লোজ করি।
হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ
হ্যাঁ মোহন, তুমি যেটা লিখছো মানে ইউটিউবে যে প্রশ্নগুলো নিইনি